Hello and welcome to another live coaching. I'm broadcasting from Hamburg, Germany. I just got back to Europe after a spring on Maui, and I'm getting over the jet lag at the moment. This is, it's always such a hard journey. It's like 24 hours-ish of traveling, 12 hours of time difference. And you think it might get easier with time, but it doesn't. I feel like it accumulates. It gets harder with time. So I've done this trip, I don't know how many times, but a lot. And I feel like every time is a challenge. This time wasn't so bad in terms of traveling with the kids and everything. Uh, I've got two kids, 5 and 2. The older kid did really well with the flights, and the little one didn't really want to sleep. But we managed, and now I've been taking it easy for the last 5 days, trying to get used to Europe again, get over the jet lag. My body has to really adjust. It's amazing how much it has to adjust. In Hawaii, the air is a lot more humid. There's a lot more moisture in the air. And so coming here before my body adjusts, it's shocked. So my eyes get really itchy and dry. My sinuses get really itchy and dry. It's a whole process to adjust, and it's a good lesson as well if you're doing a trip like that to really take it easy on the water. If you do go windsurfing, which I haven't yet, you've got to really take it easy in that first week. Otherwise, that's when you can hurt yourself. All right, we've got some people showing up. Dom Dom, Jorg, Steen, Quinton, Matt. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see everyone. And I've got to give a shout out to everyone that's supporting the live stream on the Think Tank. I'll read off the names. Geoff, Ragnar, Samuli, Matt, Jorg, Tomasz, Eric, Juerg, Evgeny, Christophe, Greg. And I haven't been able to do as many articles as I plan to do for the Think Tank. I'm going to start those up now that I'm back in Europe. But I thought it'd be cool. So for everyone that's been in the Think Tank, we're going to do a Zoom call, just all of us together to help you get ready for your summer windsurfing. I think that sounds fun and hopefully helpful. Hey, Axel. Yeah, epic stuff from Morocco. All right. Now, before it gets too late and I pass out from my jet lag, I want to jump into the coaching. But you guys know the drill. And if you have any questions, interrupt me. I think we've got some good stuff, some good content in the group. One other housekeeping thing. If you want to sign up for the live masterclass in Denmark in September, the application is in the Facebook group. I will probably do one other masterclass somewhere else this summer, but that isn't planned yet. But I will announce it in the Facebook group first. All right. So let's jump into it. Hey, Hans. All right, let's jump into the Facebook group. So here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So let's start from last week's stream. All right. So first up, we've got a post from Rich, who had some windsurfing yesterday, and he was working on tabletops and one-handed tabletops. So these look cool. The one-handed ones look great. Let's make this big. Let's make this. Oh. Can I make this full screen? There we go. Nice, high five. All right, so we're gonna watch the video, and then I've got some tips and tricks for the tabletops. Oh yeah, there's a one-handed tabletop. Boom, right onto the face. And high five. Is that a new board, Rich? I don't think I've seen you on the starboard before. If so, how do you like it? Tabletop. All right, so I'm gonna use the video instead of the photos for the tabletop because you can see a lot that's going on. So the basic movement for the tabletop, it feels like you're scissoring your legs. So you're pushing your front leg forward, you're pushing your back leg back. And I think everyone kind of is familiar with that feeling. Now, the trick. This is a decent tabletop. It's a full-on tabletop. It's not just a donkey kick. But the trick, what is the trick to the tabletop? The trick is not rotating from your feet. So you can see how the rotation here is starting with that back foot, but rotating from the hips. And you actually want your feet to be kind of loose. And so you don't want them to be tight and muscly, like you're pushing your back foot up. You want your feet to be kind of straight. So first of all, you want your legs pretty straight, not bent like this, and not tight with the muscle. And then the rotation comes from the hips. And it feels like you're whipping a dish towel or something. And so your feet are the end of the dish towel, and your hips are the wrist flicking motion. And so your hips turn, and you've got your legs straight, and they're strong, but they're not tight. And then it flips around and flips up. And that's what allows really nice tweak. And so you want to think of driving from the hips and trying to get these hips pointed down to the ground. Hips down to the ground. And that's how you get those really nice tweaks and flat tables. Yeah. Let's see if we can find one. Find one. Problem is, I think a lot of the ones, hey, Greg, thank you for supporting the think tank. We were just talking about the think tank. We're going to do a Zoom call at some point just for the think tank subscribers. I want to do that this week. I'll send an update, so look out for that. We're talking about tabletops now. Let's find this. Find a tabletop to look at. The problem with a lot of these tabletops is that they're more like the Ninja Kick style ones. Let's see if we can find just a normal tabletop. This looks like a nice one from Naira. Grand Canaria Ripper. So you can see how straight her leg is. And it's hard to see here, but her hips are facing down to the water. And so it's that whip. And you can see how it just sort of whip kicks out. And so it's not a very muscly motion. It's like a twist from the hips to then fling the legs out. So you want to have those straight legs and let the hips guide it. Here's one from Tom Hartman. The quality on these videos is not great. But again, you can really see the whip on this. You can see the kick. Straight legs. And you can see, like, look at his, you see his torso is down facing the water, and then the legs follow. See that? For the tweak. This is a really good example of that whipping that I'm talking about. It's a really good feeling. And the secret that not many pros know is that the super tweaked aerials, which not many people do, Brazinho, me, Levi, a few other people, they feel like the same thing, but the other way. And that's the trick. So most of the guys, when they're doing tweaked aerials, they get kind of, it's too muscly and it's driving too much with the back foot. But you have to drive it from the hips, and it's that tweak. And that's what allows that whipping of the tweak. Hans is asking if you need a narrow grip for a tabletop. Not necessarily. You need a narrow grip for the really tweaked ones, but just to do a tabletop, you don't need a super narrow grip. You can do a pretty tweaked tabletop with a wide-ish grip, not super wide. If you're grabbing the clips, it's going to be hard to get your body in the right position, but you don't need a super narrow grip. The most important thing is getting those hips, driving from the hips, and not being muscly in the legs, and making sure that the legs are straight and that they can whip around when you drive with the hips. Hey, JR, welcome to the stream. We're talking about tabletops. Now we're moving on. Sel's got a question about sailing no-handed. So I want to see what the comments are here. I've got a few tips. So Asa says, perfect trim and getting the harness lines in the right spot. Yeah, that's a big one. So getting the harness lines in the right spot is huge. And then you want to also make sure that you've got a harness that's that you can control enough so that the harness doesn't need to be super tight. So as you guys know, I wear my harness really loose, but that doesn't deter me from sailing no-handed. But if I had a really loose hook, that might make it harder. I'm not sure. I like having, I've got a fixed hook harness and the whole thing is loose, but so the hook is actually pretty stable. If the hook is not stable, it might be harder. But then you want to make sure that your harness lines are in the right spot and the sail is trimmed decently, because then the draft is pretty stable and it's not moving around. I guess with different sails as well, with different sail brands, the draft moves more than with others. Like with the sails that I'm used to, with Ezzy sails, we have a really focused draft. It's one of the characteristics of our sails is they have that, you can see the shape in the sail and then the draft is right there, which makes it a bit easier for going no-handed. Otherwise, you can kind of then control it with your body, sort of twisting left or right to then sheet in or out on the sail, or back and forth with your body. If the sail starts to pull forward, you can sort of pull your body back and balance it. And you want to find that sweet spot. Sailing no-handed is really good practice. It really helps with your harness sail connection. I recommend it. In fact, I like it so much. I want to have a competition. So Sel has kind of inspired me to think about a competition where we could do a no hands competition. So you've got to do some video, no cheating, no slowing it down. Maybe you need a watch in the frame. That would be best, but I trust you guys. So we can do it without a watch. And let's see, I've got some, I'll see what I have to give as a prize. And yeah, we'll do a no hands sailing competition. And the longest no-handed ride gets a prize. But I've got to set it up. I've got to see what I've got for a prize. And so I'll announce that in the group sometime in the next couple weeks. If anyone, do you guys have other tips for sailing no-handed? What are your guys' tips? All right. While you guys are thinking of tips for no-handed sailing, I'm going to answer this question about stalled forwards. Great question. How are your non-stalled forwards? So you don't want to go into stalled forwards before you can do normal forwards. If those are good, you can move on. The trick for stalled forwards is taking off upwind. I learned how to do them taking off similar to how I would for a back loop. And that was a game changer. When you learn how to take off upwind, it's such a game changer for the stalled forward. And then really getting good at pushing that sail into the wind, pushing the sail into the windward side. That helps you really stall at the top and control it. If you have those two things, taking off into the wind and then getting the sail over, it really helps. Also, it can be helpful to take off with a narrower grip and widen it in the air. So also you want to practice leaning the sail into the wind for the stall. You can practice that on normal forwards as well. All right. Next up, we've got a question about aluminum versus carbon mast extensions. What are your experiences? All right, so we've got 45 comments here. I love questions like this that inspire so much discussion. What do you guys use? I guess a lot of you guys have already answered in the comments here, but if you haven't yet, let me know in the chat. What do you use, aluminum or carbon for your extension? I used aluminum for a long time. And the reason that I used aluminum is because I thought that carbon would break. And I thought, well, aluminum will bend, carbon will break. And so it's better to use aluminum. I would bend the extensions and then they wouldn't fit in the masts because they were bent. And then I was breaking some aluminum extensions. I broke a couple. And at that point, I started talking to Chinook. So I was sponsored by Chinook at the time, and I was using the aluminum ones. And they said, you know what? The carbon ones are actually stronger. Start using the carbon ones. And that was over 10 years ago. I don't know when that was, 15 years ago. And I've been using the carbon ones ever since. And I think I've broken one, maybe two. And I do a lot of jumping, a lot of big waves, a lot of gnarly heavy stuff. And the carbon ones really hold. Now, not all carbon is equal. You know, how the carbon is made, how it's put together makes a difference. I'm only using the Chinook extensions, so that's what I have experience with. And in my experience, the carbon ones are stronger than the aluminum ones, and so that's what I use. And I've been happy with them. So that's my 2 cents. All right, Ragnar's got a question. He says, would you say that forwards and onshore is better done stalled? Not necessarily. I think that the stalled or not depends a little bit more on the height. And it's maybe a little bit easier to do just because of the angles of everything. It's maybe a little bit easier to do the stalled forward when it's onshore versus offshore, because when it's offshore, then you have to take off more downwind. And like I said, for the stalled one, you want to take off upwind. So that could make it easier. Tomasz had some sailing. Dom about stalled forwards. I said to lean the sail into the wind and have the sail over. Did I hear it correctly? Leaning into the wind over means the same, please. Yeah, what I mean is, and it's that same motion as when you set up for any kind of forward, it's helpful. It doesn't matter as much for the lower forwards, but it still makes your forward more horizontal and really nicer to rotate. It's where if the wind is coming from, can you guys see me? So if the wind is coming from this way, and I'm sailing like this, I want to lean the sail. When I do the forward, I want to lean the sail into the wind as I'm in the air to help the stall. So it like kind of across the body into the wind. You can kind of sheet out a little bit as you do that. And then you sheet in. You can take the wide grip, sheet in and go around. Does that make sense, Dom? It's hard. I think you can't really see much of my picture. I don't know if this helps. So I'm going up. The wind is coming this way. I want to lean like this, and then you can reach back and punch it around. All right. Let's get back to the Facebook group. All right. Ragnar is saying he has both aluminum and carbon, never broken anything. Good to know. So Quinton has a question about keeping speed in onshore wave riding. Yeah, Quinton, this is a good question. Keeping speed in onshore wave riding is tricky. It's not easy. It's tricky. That's one of the big challenges. There are a lot of things to say about keeping speed in onshore wave riding. The first is don't be afraid to go backside. Going backside is a great way to ride waves, and it teaches you a lot about just waves in general, how your board works with the waves that you can transfer into going frontside. And it's a lot easier to keep your speed going backside. You can work on doing backside aerials, backside high fives off the lips, getting the sail down and doing those sort of lay down backside turns. For going frontside, you want to make sure that you have a big enough sail. If you have too small a sail, it's going to be harder because you want to use the wind to help you. If the waves are big enough that when you drop down in front of the wave that it blocks the wind, then your technique really matters. If that's not the case, like somewhere like Pozo, for example, where you have really strong wind and normally smallish waves, then the technique matters less and you can really use the wind to help you keep the speed. But a lot of places that's not true. And then you come into a bit of a wind shadow right in front of the wave. And then you really want to make sure that you're staying high on the wave. You don't want to drop down too far in front and really using the rail. I would say the number one thing to think about is starting that turn on the face of the wave. So you're doing your bottom turn mid-face. And what feels like mid-face will actually be the bottom of the wave. What feels like the bottom of the wave will be way too far out in front of the wave. So you really want to stay on that wave when you're doing those frontside turns. You start really high on the top of the wave, you drop down and try and do that bottom turn, staying in the middle of the wave, and then come up and aim for your high five. And then you want to reduce the amount of time between when you start the bottom turn and you do the high five, because the longer you're going, the more you're losing speed. So you want to be going left. You look at the section you want to hit. I'm a fan of these, what I call these corner pocket sections that look like this coming at you. And when you see it, time it, turn on the face, get your board, and get that high five. And that helps with the speed. Getting low before you go, that works in a lot of conditions, but especially in those onshore conditions where all these little technical aspects matter more for keeping speed. So get low on your knees, get low before you go, and that can help you push, help you stay on the rail, help you get some acceleration as you go. All right, we're going to get back into the group. On to the next question. Next up, we've got a question about carbon mass. So 80% versus 100% or 90%. So this is an interesting question. I was talking with a very famous wave sailor. I won't mention his name, on Maui, but you all know him. He's one of the most famous wave sailors in the world. And he had just broken a mast, and he'd broken a mast the day before. And he was like, yeah, I love the feel of these 100% carbon masts, but I just keep breaking them. And that's kind of the point. So 100% carbon mass can feel really good. They're a little bit lighter. They're a little bit more responsive. For the actual performance, like on the wave, I don't feel much of a difference, or any difference, actually. In fact, I kind of prefer the 90% carbon feeling. But when I'm sailing straight, I definitely do notice the difference with 100%, and 100% I think feels a little bit better. But in the waves, I want to be confident in my gear, and I don't want to worry that, oh, if I hit this lip, I'm going to fall and then my mast is going to break. And so because the 100% carbon masts are not as strong, I stick to the 90, 91% mass. Now, if you go lower, 80, 70% mass, those mass still work. You're going to lose a little bit of performance, but like I use Ezzy, we make a 60% mass. I use that sometimes. Yeah, it feels a little bit less responsive, but it's not a huge difference. So if budget is an issue, those masks are really not that much worse. I would just be careful if you're riding 100% mass and going in heavy waves. I think that those can break. And they're not weaker in a vacuum, but because they have less fiberglass, or technically no fiberglass, I guess, supporting them, if they get little cracks, like you drop it, like this is a good mast care thing. Never drop your mast. If you drop your mast and it hits a little sharp rock or piece of asphalt, it can destroy the integrity of the mast forever, because it gets that little crack, and the next time it bends, that crack breaks the glass, breaks the mast. And 100% carbon masts are more susceptible to little cracks like that. And so that's why, and that can happen in the reef or on the rocks. Right on, Hans. All right, JR has got a question. He wants tips for laying the sail down erratically during a backside turn. JR, I'd love some photos or video to give you feedback on, but without that, I can still try. So the trick, it sounds silly, it's two things. One is you're jamming the foot of your sail into your shins, like really jamming it into the shins. And then the other is leaning your body not into the wave, but down into the flats of the wave, and even a little bit downwind. So if you lean your body a little bit downwind and into the flats of the wave, and you jam that sail into your shins, you get a really radical lay down backside turn. For starting to do backsides, though, that's not the technique I recommend. So I only recommend doing that if you're comfortable doing the backsides. If you're just starting to do the backsides, A really good exercise is throwing the sail back and your body forward on the heels, and then that will shoot you up into a backside. So sail back, body forward towards the nose. Sail back, body forward towards the nose and on your heels. And that shoots you up. And then you can combine that once you're coming into the high five on that backside turn with leaning that body then radically the other way. So like I just said, towards the flats, towards the bottom of the wave, a little bit downwind, and that helps to get a little radical squirt out of the end of the turn. Let's see if we can find a video of that. I have one somewhere. I don't know how radical it is, but let me find it. I love a good backside turn. Super fun move. So here's a little backside ride. So I'm not going very radical here at all. And then I go for 360. So let me see on the first turn if I go more radical. Not really. So these turns are not very radical like we're talking about. So let me see if I can find a different one. Let me see. Here, I'll let the video play while I search. Oh. Yeah, okay, I found a good video. All right. So here we go. So this was actually a video that I used to talk about backsides for the Patreon, which has now become the think tank. And so this is something cool that I can do in those parts of the community, go into deeper detail on things like this. So here are some examples of more radical backsides. You can see the dynamic in question. So here is an example of body forward, sail back, and then I come up, and then the body starts leaning here. So in front of the wave and a little bit downwind, and then that gets the body over the sail, and then you push on the sail forward. So you're not just pushing down on the backhand, but you're actually driving the sail forward, and that picks you back up. So Graham is asking, does this work in onshore? And yes, it does. Similar technique. These are very onshore conditions. You can see, I mean, it's not dead onshore, but it's pretty onshore. And you can see sail back, body forward. And then as I'm coming up to do that off the lip, the body leans into the pit of the wave, a little bit downwind, and then pushes the sail forward towards the nose of the board to come upright again. This is also pretty onshore conditions, not dead onshore, but pretty onshore. See sort of similar dynamic happening. Here I'm pumping. Pumping is a really good exercise as well, because the faster you're going, the more you can do. So there, a little pump, set up some speed, trying to do a different kind of backside turn there. And you can see with the backside, I'm trying to do the same thing as I am on the front sides, where I'm looking for these high five sections. So like this is a good example of that. So I see the high five section, and then sail goes back, body goes forward, and then as I'm about to hit the lip, body leans into front of the wave, a little bit downwind, and then push the sail forward, top come up, and get that high five. Feels really good. Hans is asking, is it similar to leaning after switching in attack? You mean that when it, like, how to get the sail low in the backside? Is it similar? No, it's different. It's when you're pushing out of the backside, it's a little bit similar to back-winded and then pushing out of the tack. But when you're leaning forward like that, you're leaning more back, whereas with the tack, you're leaning sort of just more directly over the center line. All right, let's get back to the Facebook group. All right, so we've got some video from Bruno, and there's not really a question attached to this, but the footage is awesome. So he's working on timing. This is in Italy, and the wave looks really fun. Where's the next video? Wind looks light. Pumping onto the waves. Maybe being on a little bit of a bigger board would help, but it looks pretty light. Looks very fun. So one thing in these conditions is you really want to make sure that you have speed. And so trying to pump up to speed is really important. And so Bruno, you did a little bit of that, but you can do even more. Looks like pretty gnarly conditions on the inside there. Yeah, so what Dontavius says is right on. So you want to point, if you can, point the mast into the wave, and then you can kind of duck dive it. So if you point the mast into the wave and push it down, then the whitewater will travel over you. Like this, it can push you back and push the mast back. The mast can get stuck in the rocks and break. So you want to get good at that little transition if you're in that water start position, where then you can just sort of, if it's windy enough, sort of sheet in and then push the front hand, or just sort of maneuver the sail. You can just, when you're in that water start position, you actually have a lot of control over the sail. You can just flip it so then the mast points into the wave, and yeah, you won't travel as far back. Yeah, it's a bit of a better position. All right, Axel has got a question about, this is a good question. I like this question. He had 16 days of wind and waves in a row and got some serious fitness problems towards the end, when his sessions became shorter and shorter, starting with 3 hours or 2 sessions a day and ending with 1 hour sessions. That's what they call diminishing results. How do you deal with problems like that? He skipped a day after 13 days in a row, but that was slightly too late. Regards from Morocco. All right, so we've got a few different answers. So some people say sail every day as long as possible, even if you have to crawl back afterwards. Skip a day to recover. Dude, that's a problem for older sailors. Sail every day, divide the day in 2 or 3 shorter, more meaningful sessions, eat, drink, sleep between them. Sail in the best conditions every day, 2 sessions of an hour with a long rest in between, lots of rest and sleep. Yeah, so these are good answers. So my answer, what is my answer? So this is something I was thinking about a lot, because it's something that I deal with when I'm training. And I've had a lot of situations like this in Gran Canaria or other places where I'm there for an extended period of time. There's lots of wind, and I've got to maximize my time. Hey, Facebook user, who is that on Facebook? Let me see, I can scroll up. Let's see if I can see it. No, I can't see it. Let's refresh this. So that happens sometimes. Oh, it's Charles. Hey, Charles. Charles, good to see you. It's been a while. Happy that you're having a session. All right. So back to this. So if you're going on a trip somewhere and you have lots of days in a row, or maybe it's your home spot, what can you do? So the first thing is preparation. And if you train for it, you're going to be less fatigued. And so that means working on your cardiovascular health, working on your grip strength, doing the training beforehand so that your body is more physically capable. This is pretty important. Like the fitter you are when you arrive, the more you can withstand on a trip like that. Hey, Christophe, good to see you. We talked about a few things that are relevant to you at the beginning of the stream, but I'll also email everyone, so don't worry about it, or just watch it back. Anyway, we're talking about what happens when you go on a trip somewhere and there's a lot of wind. How do you handle that? And how do you pace yourself? And so the first thing is that you want to train for it. So you want to be fit. Do as much training as you can before your journey, before your trip. So that means and having a good plan for it. So you want to, for something like that, you want to make sure you have your cardiovascular training. So that's like cycling or running or something like that. And then you want to make sure that you have your grip strength, that your grip is really important. So I recommend doing pull-ups or hanging or towel hanging or towel hang pull-ups. Those are all good for grip strength. It's kind of relevant to windsurfing. It's a similar way to how we have to hang on windsurfing. And the grip strength, like where's the camera? Like this gets so destroyed windsurfing. Like you're like just all of these. And if you're hanging from towels or something, it really helps train those muscles if you're not able to get on the water very much. I have got videos of that on my YouTube. And hey, John, good to hear you got on the water. Okay, so that's beforehand. Then when you get there, you want to make sure that you're hydrating and hitting your nutrition. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough calories, you're getting enough water, and you're getting enough electrolytes. For me, in terms of supplements, I found that L-glutamine makes a difference. It really helps my muscles recover. It's something that I feel is probably the only thing that I really feel makes a difference. You want to make sure that you're getting enough protein because your muscles are breaking down. You want to make sure that they're able to replenish themselves. I know some people will take branched chain amino acid supplements. So Harold is saying sleep longer, eat more carbs, drink lots of water, and substantial proteins. Yeah, so that's bang on. So you want to make sure. So first thing we said is preparation. Second thing is nutrition and hydration. So carbs, you got to fuel yourself. Proteins to heal yourself, and make sure you're drinking enough. So the other thing that is maybe not obvious is that the wind, especially in a warm place like Morocco or Gran Canaria, is like a hair dryer. It's drying you out. You have to drink so much water there. So it's not just that you're being physically active, and it's not just that the temperatures are warmer, but warm temperatures with strong wind that's hitting your skin, it's drying you out. It's like your body is in a hair dryer. And so you have to drink so much water. And it's really important to not just be drinking water, but to be drinking water with electrolytes, with salts. Because if you're just drinking water, it's not going to hydrate you as well. So you really got to make sure you're replenishing the electrolytes that you're sweating out. So you can get electrolyte powders, electrolyte pills, however you want to do it. You want to make sure that you have some kind of hydration system. It's super important. Somewhere like Gran Canaria, Morocco, I can't stress this enough. It's like you're in a hairdryer. It's so hard on your body and on your skin. So you want to be drinking lots of water with electrolytes. It also means that if you're going for a long session, like 3 hours, your body's going to get dehydrated. And if you get yourself dehydrated, then it's harder to recover. So you never want to reach the point where you're super dehydrated. So it means coming in for a drink, maybe every hour, something like that. Come in, have a drink, have a little rest. And that just makes sure that your body is functioning as it's supposed to. And then for strategy of how much to windsurf, like obviously you want to be out in the best times. And so if there's a tide situation for the spot, then being aware of the tides can be really helpful. Now, if you're dealing with crowds, that can also be annoying, right? Where you're trying to get the best tide, but also the smallest crowds, and that can be difficult. That happens a lot in the Canary Islands where you're trying to optimize all of those things. But anyways, you want to make sure that you're getting the best conditions. You're coming in every hour or so to drink, to hydrate. As Tomasz says, this is a really good point. Lots of sleep and less alcohol. So alcohol also dehydrates you. Be careful with the caffeines. Caffeine can dehydrate you and then also make it harder to sleep. Your sleep is your recovery. So sleep is super, super important. Ragnar is saying if the forecast looks good, save your energy. If the wind is great, but the forecast is crap, probably utilize the wind as much as you can. Yeah, those are good points as well. The training beforehand is really important. So I can't stress that enough. And then those other little tips that we said. And then I really like doing the 2 sessions a day. I like doing something in the morning, in the evening, maybe having a nap or like a just really solid rest in between. Also, it helps you progress faster if that's your goal. If your goal is to progress, that could be a really good method because then your brain is processing everything that you were doing in the morning. And then when you go out in the evening, it can already start to implement some of the things. Whereas if you just do a 3-hour session, your brain doesn't have the time to do the processing. So it can also be better for learning as well. What else? I find that I'll reach a point where I just have to take a day off and then I won't feel bad about it. Or maybe I'll go out for 15 minutes and I'll put my watch on and I'll be really strict about it because I know that if I stay out longer, it's going to really mess me up. But I also really like the feeling of going on a trip and at the end of the trip being just destroyed because I've windsurfed so much over that time. So you don't want to baby yourself. You want to really push, but you want to do so in a way that's smart so that you can take full advantage of all the wind and all the conditions. So just to recap, do the training beforehand. So working your cardiovascular training and your grip strength training too. All the other training is important, but for those specific conditions, I think it's like your cardiovascular endurance system, and then your grip strength is also a huge one. Make sure that your diet and hydration and sleep are on it, right? Eating enough carbs, enough protein. Maybe you're taking an L-glutamine supplement. Maybe you're taking some branched chain amino acids. Make sure you're taking electrolytes with your liquids and you're drinking a lot of liquids. Come in and drink again. And then breaking up sessions. And if you do that, you can sail a lot, actually. I think that's a pretty good strategy. All right, let's get back to the Facebook group. Do we have anything else? I think that's it. So if you guys want to apply for Denmark, I know a bunch of you guys already have applied and you'll hear back from me this week. Here's the application. You got to scroll down to find it. I can pin this to the top maybe. Pin to featured. All right, so now it's pinned to the top. And yeah, just fill out the application and then I'll be in touch. And if you're in the think tank, look out for an email from me soon. And thanks for showing up. I hope you have a windy week. I'm going to continue to get over my jet lag and hopefully get on the water sometime soon. I don't know when I'm going to get on the water next. I've still kind of got to get my jet lag done. But then, yeah, I'm looking forward to some European windsurfing. All right, everyone, take care. Have a good windy week. I will see you next week, Sunday. And in the meantime, I will be in the Facebook group. So post your photos, questions, videos, comments, concerns, all of the above. And we'll discuss it during the week and on the live stream next week, Sunday. All right, take care. Have a good one. Bye.